we're going to be using titanium white, raw sienna, cadmium yellow pale, yellow ochre, chrome yellow, cadmium red light, permanent rose, cadmium red deep, alizarin crimson, dioxazine purple, French ultramarine blue, phthalo blue, cobalt blue, sap green, phthalo green, raw umber, and burnt sienna. It's the burnt sienna, which is the one that's got that color where it's a little bit, I want to say, more like orangey copper color. When it's the chocolate color, that would be the raw umber. See, I added some burnt sienna. It's got a beautiful camel color, copper, like a penny. So you had seen that was burnt sienna and some phthalo green. I'm trying to get his shadows because he does have warm greenish shadows on him. So that's alizarin crimson, trying to add some of those warm tones to his nose. Remember, we always have warm areas around the nostrils, the nose. And I'm also adding some on his lips. Putting some of that color on the crease of the eyelids. And on the cheek, the top of the cheek, I'm grabbing some dioxazine purple and some alizarin crimson. And the top lip's always going to be darker than your bottom lip. That's because the nose shadow and everything, the lips facing down, the top lip is always facing down, so therefore it's always darker, and the top lip, and the bottom lip is not that dark, it's always lighter. And as I had mentioned before, that's one of my favorite combinations to use on the lips is alizarin crimson, and it could be French ultramarine blue or dioxazine purple. That was French ultramarine blue. And every time I am going to change paint, I wipe my paintbrush or I wipe it off the napkin. I'm going back to the skin tone that I had done earlier. I was trying to get the ball of the nose. He does seem to have a little highlight on there. Take your time when you are painting. That's permanent rose that I added to that mixture. Sometimes it just seems like we can't get something right the first time. Remember that you don't have to have every single detail done with the painting at one time. You can always come back to it and correct it. Some people always seem to think that when you start painting that you must go completely in detail from start to finish with the painting. No, start with your paints, and towards the end you start adding the defined details. I'm adding some yellow ochre to that mixture. If you guys want me to just slow down the process the way I'm doing it, and you can pretty much pick up the colors if I lay them out the way I've laid them out for you and go through every single color before each video presentation and just add music in the background, by all means let me know and I'll do that if that's better for you guys. Of course, I'm adding that around the nose area where the eye and the nose meets. This, of course, is my niece's Renee's son, and she has the most beautiful little boy. I know he's my nephew, so I would think that he's gorgeous. He's also very smart. Before he was 2, he was talking in complete sentences, not doing baby talk. He was talking. And of course, that was titanium white with some permanent rose and some yellow ochre with more permanent rose. I'm going to tone that down with yellow ochre, more yellow ochre, titanium white, but this is a present that I'm making for my niece. I added some raw sienna and yellow ochre, and I'm going to go ahead and give her this painting. My niece Renee is my niece's Melanie's sister, and she's the ballerina I painted before this painting. I'm also going to enter him in a competition. I decided to do a small painting. I think the size is probably about almost like 8 by 10 because he's a baby. I didn't want something huge. I wanted a small painting for her. I went back to the raw sienna mixture that I had done earlier. That was my dog, Caillou, barking. And I only put like one tile at a time, little dab at a time. Alizarin crimson and dioxazine purple. Just going towards the shadowed eye. More dioxazine purple and alizarin crimson to give me a darker value. Remember one thing, that in art you paint what you see, not what you know is there. So if there's an eye in the shadow and you can't see it, you don't paint a dark black eye. You just simply paint the shadow. So that's a very hard concept even for me to follow sometimes, to paint what I see, not what I know is there. We're going to go with dioxazine purple with the previous mixture I had, which looks like it was permanent rose. Titanium white, dioxazine purple, French ultramarine blue, and alizarin crimson. Yellow ochre, more alizarin crimson, and French ultramarine blue. And again, more alizarin crimson. Right, and I had done a mixture there with yellow ochre and white. I have 3 different values and they all consist of yellow ochre and white, and the lighter it gets, that's because I added more white, and I've mixed some of the permanent rose and white into that. That was the alizarin crimson, and of course it's going around his nose. He's got a little reddish nose, and that was alizarin crimson once again. I noticed my nephew is very pink with a little bit of yellow in him. I'm adding that to the top lip portion of his mouth. More alizarin crimson and dioxazine purple. That would be permanent rose, trying to emphasize his lips. I'm putting one tile at a time, one dab at a time of paint. Of course, that was alizarin crimson into the paint mixture for the bottom lip. I'm also adding that to the chin. He does have a little red chin. That's all babies do, and right around the forehead.